For more on the Turkey-Netherlands tensions, we're joined by Bulent Aliriza. He's the director of the Turkey Project at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Bulent, welcome. We're just getting some word that Turkish President Erdogan is slamming Angela Merkel of Germany now for siding with Netherlands. How concerned are you that this diplomatic spat, diplomatic crisis, could now involve other European nations?
Well, actually, you focused on the in the opening segment on the tensions between Turkey and the Netherlands. But in fact, there were tensions with Germany before then. The Netherlands banned the Turkish foreign minister from landing and then expelled, basically declared persona non grata, another minister. So the tensions are higher with the Netherlands, but Germany and the relationship with Germany is much, much more important to Turkey than the Netherlands is. Germany is effectively the leader of the EU. And Merkel, Chancellor Merkel, has gone out of her way to try and maintain this relationship in spite of criticism within Germany against her engagement with Mr. Erdogan. So when Mr. Erdogan criticizes Ms. Merkel, this is very serious, and it shows that, in fact, the Turkish-EU tensions, the Turkish tensions with the Europeans is not going to go away in the near future.
Turkey, of course, is part of NATO, wants to be part of EU. What will this do to negotiations over its EU membership?
Well, they've been stalled for some time, and clearly there's bad feeling on the part of the Turkish government that the process has not moved towards formal accession. And on the other side, we see people like Wilders, who was in the report, the Dutch opposition leader, who was using the immigration issue against the government. Then there is the alternative for Germany in Germany that's been using this issue, Marine Le Pen in France. So clearly, and the Turkish president has been talking about this, there is an anti-Islam sentiment. And he's also saying that there's an anti-Turkish sentiment, which is fueling the opposition to Turkish accession on the European side. And he's responding to what he perceives as the slight towards Turkey.
Bulent, how do you diffuse this crisis? What is the thing that needs to happen? What is the first step here?
Well, it's very difficult to see the end of it because, in fact, as you know, there are elections coming up in Holland, there are elections coming up in France and in Germany. And because of the fact that I mentioned, the domestic support for continuing the relationship or the process of deconfrontation with Turkey is going to be difficult on the European side. And also, on the Turkish side, there is a referendum coming up on April 16th. And the conflict with the Europeans clearly benefits President Erdogan as he tries to persuade the Turkish voters that they should support him as a strong leader in the referendum.
So, Bulent, how do you think this will play out as far as the referendum goes? And this is about expanding Erdogan's presidential powers. Will Turkish expats in the Netherlands come out in full force? I mean, how do you see this playing out in terms of this election in Turkey?
Well, by my reckoning, at least Turkish ministers have gone to at least 7 countries during the past week, or have tried to go to 7 countries. Clearly, the Turkish voters who are dual citizens in those countries is perceived to be important in the coming referendum, which suggests to me that the government thinks that this is going to be a close-run thing. Now, we don't know which way the Turkish voters are likely to go. My guess is that the majority, as in the past, will support Mr. Erdogan in the referendum. But you know, looking further beyond the referendum, it's going to make life difficult for the Turkish citizens, dual citizens who are living in these countries, because they're getting caught between their host countries, where they're citizens and where they're trying to make a life, and their country of origin. And the worse the relationship gets between those two countries, the worse it is for those individuals.
And how is this tension playing out in the streets of Istanbul, in the streets of Ankara?
Well, in Istanbul, some people jumped in and put the Turkish flag on the Dutch consulate. There were demonstrations against the Dutch embassy in Ankara. The streets have been cordoned off. The government has given 2 diplomatic notes to the chargé d'affaires and has told the Dutch ambassador not to come back. Clearly, you know, the tensions are going to rise within the diplomatic, at the diplomatic level, and as well as in the streets, as we saw, both in Holland as well as in Turkey.
We'll leave it there. As always, a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much, Bulent Aliriza.